Rampage as an event being live, it's pretty difficult to make it flow well with potential crashes, with wind holds and everything. Do you think there's a way to improve that, or do you think it's always going to be a live event?
I never watch it live, right? So I can't speak on that as much. All I can say is that when I do see it on TV, I think it looks dumb, and I can't believe what all the hype's about. Just because in the perspective I have from actually being there, and anyone that's been there, so it's hard to predict what it would be like being the consumer average viewer to make it flow better. But from what I've seen, and I'll watch a surf event all day. You'd be on the waiting, there's a couple, like a 2-week waiting period sometimes, and then you have to wait. So you're constantly checking in. Luckily it happens on this day. And then when it comes to that day, there's lulls in the surf, and I don't mind watching it all day. So I think that's the nature of it. And it captures, is the highest viewed event in two wheels, I believe, besides the Tour de France, right? Highest viewed Red Bull event. And so whatever they're doing, or whatever we're doing combined is working. But the ways to fix it aren't necessarily for the viewership. And I think that they could add in a lot of vignettes. They could have a lot of backstories and have people just say from Supercross, the on-course analysis, a little bit more of that. And if there is some downtime, then they can go up and they can pull some stories from that they've already shot previously in the week, and someone struggles with this feature and how they had to change up their line. I think that stuff could go a long way, at least for the downtime, right? Mm-hmm. And from a production standpoint, that just takes a little bit more forethought and dollars. It shouldn't be too hard to accomplish. And I think the biggest problem is usually just scoring and judging and the format of that. And they're usually pretty good about having meetings. Like we'll have a wrap up, or we'll have like a preview meeting with, the majority of the athletes, if not all of them. And I've always tried to propose fan voting, like to have at least a placeholder. Because in the first 4 rampages, all the riders would go. They'd say this. They wouldn't tell anyone their score, and then at lunch they would tell you your ranking, hike back up the hill, and then they won't announce the second run scores until the podium. So it gives them a lot more time to deliberate and just double check everything. Because at the end of the day, the score doesn't really matter. It's the placing. Exactly. All that matters is the ranking. Mm-hmm. So they need a score. I get it. But I have personally gotten outscored by Sorgi once by 8 points. And it turns out, I found out after, that they just left room for other riders if they were potentially going to go in. And I thought I needed 8 points. So I'm swinging for the fences, crashed, and then didn't up my score. Still ended up second. And they told me after, like, you just needed a little bit more.
Yeah.
So the score is almost worse than having one.
Yeah.
And then as far as, you're going to need a live component, you're going to need something to, capture the eyeballs and say, put the fan scoring live. And then you have the actual judges vote on it, and that's going to be the end all be all,
Yeah, that'd be cool to see a component of it being fan scoring. Like with online and live, it would be easy to do that with a poll or something.
Yeah,
and if that was like a small percentage of the score.
It could, even if you add it in as like the 5th judge are the fans, who knows? Or the sixth judge. And even if it's, not 100% weighted for them, at least that you can contribute, you can add to the score, you can help make a difference. And it's a little bit misleading, because if you're not there, you're really not going to accurately be able to score it. But at least for the live component, and then we need some sort of insight into what they're thinking before we drop.
Yeah,
they see our lines, they go out and measure things, they go out and walk it. We don't know what their predetermined line score is. If you talk to the judges and try to like pick their brain and try to get as much info as you can kind of get an inclination of what they're scoring high, what they're looking for, or like how much they love Lemoyne's drop. And then you're like, even whether you agree with whatever they're doing, at least you know what they're thinking, and you can act accordingly, because we want to do what we want to do. We want to ride how we want to ride, and we're building things they're speaking to us, and things we've been working on, what the event truly means to us. But we're still there to compete. So if there's something you could do to try to help elevate your score, you're going to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're still going to try to stay true to like your dream line, irregardless of the judges. And I think we need to have some sort of a predetermined line score prior to dropping in, to where we know if we just rode the line, is it going to even be enough, or how far do I have to go? How far, like if I the amount of times that you get done with your run and you're just completely blown away with, okay, they didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to need to like really, really go for it. Whereas if you had some inclination before, you could make changes on the fly, and you could go for the line that you didn't realize that they were looking for, that they didn't appreciate that more, Yeah, we need some insight, and I think it would go a long way. And I think that we also, I propose to have, say, like the top 30% of the mountain is more dangerous. It's harder to do tricks. It's harder to build, more consequences, more exposed, and it's more true big mountain. It's always the steepest part of the mountain. I think that should be weighted higher. So the top 30% of your run should be like 50% of the score, right? And then on and on and on. And the bottom should be like 10 to 15% of your score, because it's like dirt jump land.
Yeah.
But those would be my biggest fixes, at least for judging. But the rest of it, it's difficult. They've given us some show up money that all goes to our diggers, or I would assume most people do the same. I split the show up money to pay my diggers. Try to get budget from someone to make the media project, but at least they let us film out there. Yeah, it's come a long way. We had some checks and balances after Paul was paralyzed, that the care flight will never leave. We can't drop until the care flight's back, and that, I know that has happened numerous times, but at least that was in the rule and that was added. But yeah, I mean, I dropped when there was no care flight there because I took a mill out, and it had already been too long. And
well, I wonder, would it be better to frame Rampage as a not live event, as something that's pre-taped, packaged, and then now distributed in a really punchy 30-minute or 1-hour episode?
I don't think that would really, I mean, that's a video part, right? Like, I think that's formation, or, and it's not going to be the same. And I actually do love the competition side of it. I get emotional hiking up the hill sometimes, and it's pretty special. I mean, the amount of people, and it's just concentrating everything, right? Getting everyone there, like at the same time. All the fans are getting there. They've had their tickets for months, their plans to travel, and we've all been getting our bikes and go to, it's. I think the live component and the competition side of it shouldn't change.
Yeah.
But
you don't think there's room for it to be the same competition with just the big breaks cut out and stuff, or does it lose the magic when you cut out the live element?
I think it does.
Yeah.
But you could also spread it out more, like, okay, the waves are flat, you literally can't surf. How about the wind is up, or whatever, or there was injury, we're going to take, might have to wait till tomorrow.
Yeah. The next morning maybe.
Yeah. But then that all comes down to budget too, because anytime they have to push the event, like this year, it's like, you hear them talking numbers, and they're like, oh, this is going to cost a couple $100,000 just to keep everyone here for one more day. So I know that they wouldn't really ever go for it, but at least there is enough budget. The fact that with all the rain, and to keep everyone safe, they were able to, because they could have very easily said, no, you're dropping the same. You have plenty of practice, and obviously there would be an uproar, but we still would have rode. So the fact that they did push it back this year, that's all they can do. I mean, it rained more. I think that was their wettest October on record or something, or at least in, recorded period. And so the fact that they did push it back, it speaks volumes. That they're listening, they trust that, and learn from previous experiences. Like when Paul, the year Paul got paralyzed, there was weather coming in, and the event was on Saturday. They decided to move the event to Friday because there was supposed to be storms all weekend. So they told everyone on Thursday at lunch, events happening Friday, tomorrow. And 4 people went to the hospital that evening, or that afternoon.
Underprepared.
Yeah, they're like, oh shit, I have to ride my line tomorrow. I have to compete tomorrow. 4 people went to the hospital, and then the next day Paul was paralyzed. So 5 people went to the hospital that year. And that, so they learned from it, right? And you can never push the event forward. So we're gonna at least and they didn't have to necessarily push the event back, but they did, and that it didn't keep everyone safe, I guess, in a sense. But that's all you can do.
Yeah. So do you think that there was something special going on in the bad way this year, or do you think it was just bad luck?
I think it's just bad luck. I mean, one, you had Adolf, the amount of people. Like, I was personally telling Adolf, like, I think you'll be all right. I think that's a great jump for it. I know he's going to do it anyway. I know there's a lot of people trying to talk him out of it.
Really?
Like you shouldn't do this. And I've known him for too long. says, I cannot die, and that's just, he's loco for a reason. That's why it's his nickname. And he is one of a kind human, right? That's why we all love him. And that's why he is who he is. And I know there's no talking it out of it. So I was like trying to just give him some confidence, but I know there were a lot of people that were, and trying to attempt something that's never been done for a reason, because it's freaking heavy.
Yeah.
And not just heavy of okay, if you don't land right, it's like you might not even be able to do it, and it'd be incredibly difficult to even get it around, let alone like the dangers of it. So, because some of the things we do, if they go right, they're pretty easy, but there's just a lot of exposure, or there's a lot of risk. And with that one, that was a lifetime of doing double flips and a lifetime of hitting step downs, and the most audacity you could ever have to try that trick. So that's an anomaly. And then a mill was, I don't know, that one's a trip. I don't even know how to describe it, because I don't think I believe it was a switch whip, but I don't think I've ever seen a mess up a switch toe up at all, ever. And it was on the worst spot he could have ever done it. And it looked like a base jump from up top, his rut where he landed and off the edge. And in a sense, kind of lucky if you look at that one as well, but I don't know. And then like Casey, I think she, even in hindsight, she like probably, she probably didn't need the care flight. It was a brutal crash, but like, I think tibial plateau and something else, like she could have been carrying. So that one made that one look a little bit more, like a little bit heavier, but I guess I heard she was fine. Again, this is all anecdotal, but I heard she was kind of cracking jokes up there and she was okay and stable. But it was still a care flight. Mm-hmm. And then Aiden's was like, that's kind of something that's bound to happen every now and then. It just was concentrated all into one year, like weird. But I don't think the event's gone too far, but I do think that we need new venues. That's probably the biggest thing. It's opening up to where there might be an opportunity for BLM land. And that opens up a huge mass amount of area in that zone of the best area in the world, with the same erosion and the same water lines and all these cliff bands that are consistent across the whole valley. And
do you think that would do something to kind of tone down the level of amplitude for the tricks?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it brings back what people want. We want more big mountain. We want more. But that's also coming from the advent of running water, like the fact that they pump it from a spring up to the top of the mountain, and like all day, every day, and have a 500-gallon tank or a couple of them at the top, and then we all have literally running water. That's why everything's so manicured, and it's awesome. It's safer in a lot of ways, but it also it enables you to do like far bigger tricks higher up the mountain. So I've tossed around the idea that we should have like limited water years, like every other year, or we have like not a no water year, but you have to hike up your own water.
Yeah.
Or we get limited to like 50 gallons a day, and you have a little meter on, on your hose spigot or something. And I think there's some cool ideas that you could toss around, and that brings back the more raw aspect that everyone's asking for, and what I like leaving things a little bit more raw. And yeah, I think there's a few things, but in a sense, I don't think it needs to be changed as much as people think.
Right. And it sounds like a newer venue could change most of the things that need to be changed.
For sure. Yeah. And it's fresh. Like the last venue we went to, like Kyle didn't go because he'd done it and it's used, and that was our fourth time going back to it. But personally, it was probably one of my favorite venues. But I really, the most important thing that needs to happen is to have a new venue.
Yeah. Okay. Love that.
Yeah. Let me make sure. I made a couple notes about Rampage.
Sure.
Yeah. I think we're good. Yeah. I mean, I guess the only thing it didn't hit on was just like why we do it. And it's just special, like to have our own little worlds event, like we have our custom bikes, and I get to sit down with Troy Lee and design a custom helmet, and it's like, it's everything concentrated for the industry as well. And we get to all, it's like a girl dressing up for prom or something. We get to get all our new stuff and all our custom things, and be, have the most eyeballs out of our whole lives. And especially, at least that year, all just looking as sick as possible and working with your team and assembling your squad, assembling your media guys and your dig team, and then just working for 10 days in the desert, all for the same goal. I think that's why I love it so much. And that's probably the most special part, is actually having a team to work towards something with.
Yeah.
And you're all in it together, and it's the heaviest moments, and everyone's life's on the line, and you're even working with the other teams, and you want to win, but you still want to see everyone do well. And my wife was always blown away how, like, in the earlier years of how much camaraderie there was and how genuinely happy we were for each other, because I mean, it's a lot on the line. We want to win.
It's a competition, but it doesn't really feel like it.
Yeah, and you want to keep everyone safe. It's like a brotherhood. It's like a bunch of people going off to war, and you want to see, you know, your brothers succeed. But in the competition sense, you want to beat them, but you want to beat them at their best, and you want to see everyone do it for the good of the sport and everyone to, make the sport a better place.